Hi everyone, happy holidays. Welcome to the tutorial for the MariGold Horticultural Therapy Wreath Kit. Your kit should have included the following. A 12-inch wreath, some pine cones, a bow, some Christmas balls, and a variety of stems from different types of evergreen plants. We have some Fraser fir. We have some piney to pine, and some other varieties here as well. I also have some cedar and also some spruce. So today we're going to make the 12-inch wreath. Your supplies should look something like this. Your greens will look something like this. You'll also need, which wasn't included with the kit, a good pair of shears. These are my Felco shears. You might want a scissor. You might want to put gloves on your hands. I don't have gloves on, but you might want to do that if you want. Sometimes this stuff gets a little sticky. And you should be set with all of those materials. There's some wire that's pre-cut that came along with the kit as well. If you don't have enough wire, you can always find some wire as well. But this should be enough for what we need today. Okay, to start out, you're going to take your fir branches. I have a huge branch here. Your branches you got probably are a little smaller than this. And you're going to cut your branch down to make pieces that are about maybe the length of your arm. Okay? So you're going to cut those. And you might get, a dozen pieces. You might get 10 pieces. Whatever you get, we will work with. So you're going to cut those down. Okay, and even this thicker part here we can also work with as well. Okay, so you're going to have those cut down. So I have those all cut. I'm going to put aside my other pieces for now. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our 12-inch form. I'm going to put my camera down a little bit so you can see my workspace right now and see what we're doing. Okay, you're going to take your 12-inch form and you're going to place your pieces that you just already cut around the 12-inch form, like so. Obviously, you're going to have it flat on the table. You're going to put them around clockwise. So I'm going to place my pieces clockwise, and I'll show you what that's going to look like in just a second. So you're going to place them clockwise. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. So they're clockwise on the wreath form. And then you're going to continue to place ones on top of that to kind of fill in your form. You're probably going to do about maybe 2 or 3 layers of that. You might have to cut down a couple of the pieces if they're kind of unruly or they're not following the circle, and that's fine. We can always give them a little trim at the end. So you're going to cut down your pieces so that you're filling up your 12-inch form. This is and then what you're going to do is you're going to take your wire, and you are going to kind of just take the wire and kind of weave the wire through to get your greens on there. So I'm just weaving the wire through. Kind of no rhyme or reason to it. Just making sure it kind of captures all of the stem it needs to capture and kind of keeps everything in place. So you're going to do that all the way around. Again, there's no rhyme or reason. You don't have to, be precise with it. The wire will hold it all together. I was just kind of taking the wire, maybe my first part of wire, and just kind of folding it over, giving it a little like bend or a little knot onto the form itself, and then you can kind of just weave it through. So I'll show you what that looks like so far without getting all my things. And it's just weave it, so it's going to go across. So I'm weaving this through. And it's all right if you see the wire, because this is just going to be the base. We're actually going to make another layer or two in addition to this. And you can also take yours and kind of tuck them underneath too, tuck them in a little bit. You have an opportunity to do that on the wreath form as well, where you can kind of tuck them into the form. So I'm just taking the wire around. So the base wreath is going to look like this. And I'm going to continue to kind of take the next pieces and kind of tuck them under and through to kind of fill in a little bit. Now this piece is a little large, so I might cut this one down. So I'm just tucking them under, and you can tuck them, kind of tuck them through as well. And it just depends, you know, sometimes people like them kind of a little fuller. Sometimes you might not like it as full. Maybe you don't want it covering the middle circle as much. We can fix that at the end. But in the meantime, I'm still doing clockwise around and tucking the fir tree materials around like that. So I got a couple more pieces here. I would say it probably takes about maybe 12 pieces or so. You don't really have to count, but anything you have that you cut down already, you might as well try to put in there. So like I'm tucking it under again. And this I did not wire yet. I wired the first group, but this I'm kind of just tucking more than wiring. But we will wire it up all at the end as well. So just tucking it in and over. You can kind of see how it's coming together. Okay. And then you might want to look through and just see if there's any spaces. I got a little space right here. So I'm going to take another piece, kind of place it on top, maybe tuck the stem, the end of the stem through. Okay. And then I'll do another piece to kind of layer it on top. So you kind of don't really want to see these ends coming through, but we're going to be able to cover that as well. Okay, so that's what my wreath looks like so far. Let me just tuck a little bit more in. So once I have my wreath my form kind of going, you'll see some of the things are starting to stick up a little bit. We can take our wire, our pieces of wire again, and kind of just give it a little wire down, just to kind of hold it in place. And we're going to cover, these wires are green, so you're really not going to see them anyway, but we're going to cover this when we do our next layer anyway. And I was going to do a different green for the next layer, just to give the wreath a little bit more interest. And you might have to tuck in some sides so you don't really see the green wire at the end there. I can kind of see it a little bit, so I might tuck in some sides as well. And then work on kind of getting it a little more uniform. Okay, that's what my wreath looks like so far. It's not going to look like your like standard wreath you might see at the supermarket this time of year. Those are made by machines, so they look very uniform. This is going to be much more unique and much more special because it's made by you. And there we go. Awesome. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is do our different greens. So we picked this fir tree to kind of start out the wreath arrangement with. But I think what we'll do next is we'll put a little bit more accent in there. So I'm going to use some of this black pine. Pine trees are very popular in this part of the country in Pennsylvania where we're at, they actually were commissioned by the British during the colonial times to, they grew the pine trees so that the British could use the pine wood for their sailing ships. So you'll see a lot of pine trees in this area for that reason. Even 200 years later from when the British were here. So I'm just taking my pine needles, and I'm kind of poking them in around. I might do maybe 5 little clusters. I like to do things that are either in 3s or 5s, just because that is kind of a design principle, doing 3s or 5s. So I'm taking these, I'm cutting them probably about 5 or 6 inches, and I'm kind of just poking them in. And your kit might not have the pine with it. It might have came with something different. Maybe it had the another variety of greens. It might have had the cedar, so you could do the same thing with the cedar. Or it also might have had some blue spruce. You could do that with the blue spruce as well. So I just tuck that in like that, like so. And I'm noticing that this is kind of pulling out a little bit. So I can kind of give that a little cut, kind of make it a little more uniform around. It's not going to be completely uniform, and that's not what we want either. So that's what it looks like. So that's what my wreath looks like so far. Okay, so next I'm going to do maybe another variety of green, just to give it a little bit more texture. And then the pine needles I kind of put in the center of the circle. The cedar I'm going to put towards the outside of the circle. So I'm going to do kind of all the way around. So this is a cedar tree. Cedars for cedar boxes, cedar wood, all sorts of things that we use cedar for. So I'm just going to put the cedar towards the outside. So I got a couple pieces of cedar on the outside, like so. Oh, here's my other piece of cedar. Looking for that. This is our cedar. So if you see, I'm just kind of putting it on the outside of the wreath. Let's see. Probably need something else, maybe. And also not putting them in straight. Make sure you're putting them in on a curve, following the curve of the circle as well. I forgot to mention that. So maybe what you want to do next is you want to turn your wreath, once you have all of your greens on there, you want to turn your wreath over, and you want to you should see there's some this is obviously the back of the wreath. You see there's some stems that are sticking up. You want to kind of give those stems a little tuck and tuck them under. We're also going to, this time, use a little bit more wire and kind of wire it from the back to make sure it all stays together. So you want to take a couple more pieces of wire. And you want to just kind of make sure you are kind of getting all those stems in there, knotting them in there real well. And I can't really tell you how many pieces of wire or how long you're going to spend doing this part of the project. It really just depends on how you created in the front part. So take your time, just making sure everything's kind of staying put. You might, I'm just kind of taking it and just kind of, taking the wire and really just kind of folding it in. But, give it a little shake. Give your wreath a little shake. Make sure it doesn't fall apart. I see I got one piece here that's kind of coming out a little bit, so I'm going to piece of pine tree here, so I'm going to take another wire and make sure that that piece is nice and secure. So I'm still wiring these in the back there. Okay, so you're going to go around and you're going to wire the rest of it. But it's going to, my wreath looks like this so far. Very kind of rustic looking. I like it that way. Some people like to cut, cut the ones in the center a little bit more so you get more of a circle in the center. I like to keep it kind of rustic looking. I think it gives it a little more character. Looks like it's more out in the wild anyway. Okay, so that's the basis of our wreath. Now I'm going to do a little bit of the decorating of the wreath. I did have in my kit today this beautiful magnolia, brown booty magnolia leaves that will look great on this wreath. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the leaves, and I would usually just put the stem in, but obviously this big stem is not going to look right on such a wreath, on such a small wreath. So probably what I'll do is I'll take a couple of the leaves off. These are so soft. They're really, really, really very beautiful. And I'm going to take a couple of the leaves. I might just take like one or two. And I'm going to take a piece of wire. And I might only put this, I think I might only put this on the bottom of the of my creation. But you really could put it, you know, a couple different ways if you want. You probably will have some extra magnolia left over if you want to put it in a vase to enjoy over the holidays as well. It will stay with no water and be kind of pretty. You could also put it on a mantle too, or with your holiday decorations too. It's absolutely one of my favorites. So I'm just taking the magnolia leaf. I don't think you can see what I'm doing, and I'm just kind of like taking the wire and just wiring it onto my frame. And you're going to see this part here, but that's okay because we're going to cover it with a decoration. It's probably something. So you can either kind of pull it around. So that looks pretty good. So like that. And I might just leave it. I might only do one thing of magnolia. I kind of like it on the bottom like that. But if you feel so inclined, you could also do, you know, another set maybe the other way. Or you could do any number of things. You have a nice piece to work with. So work with the piece how you want it. Okay, so now I have my magnolia leaf for a little bit of interest. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my pine cones. I gave the kids, some of them had different pine cones. Most of them had, you know, pine cones are basically the seed of the evergreen, of the pine, of our pine trees. But, you know, not everything's a pine tree. It could be a spruce tree. It could be a Fraser fir tree. It could be any number of trees that keep their leaves all year round, you know. But these are basically the seeds of the tree. So this is the seed, right? So we call them pine cones. But each pine cone is different depending on your species of the tree. And these are actually from, I think, a spruce tree. But some of the ones, they'll look a little different, or from a pine tree or a fir tree, whatever. So I'm going to take my pine cones, and I'm going to, I need to wire them up. So what you're going to do is take a piece of wire. Probably don't need the whole length. And you're going to put the wire through the bottom of the pine cone, and you're going to twist. And you'll get yourself a little stem for your pine cone. I know it's kind of hard to see that, but... and then if you need to, you can kind of cut the wire so that's a little more even. So once you have your little twist on your pine cone, then you can kind of also find a spot on your wreath for your pine cone. So I'm going to put this one right here to kind of cover that stem of my magnolia. Okay, so mine's almost sticking out, almost like it's a flower. And then I might do like maybe 3 more on this one, maybe 5, whatever you want. I'm kind of just finding, you know, a spot, kind of a good spot for it on the wreath itself. Maybe intermittent with the pine that we put on there. Okay, and you can kind of push them down a little bit. I'm also doing them in a circle, so if you see, they're all kind of, you know, facing the, you know, the clock direction. You don't have to do that, but these are kind of long, so they kind of would look funny if they were sticking straight out. So it's probably better that they are, you know, a little bit flatter onto the wreath. So I'm going to take this guy, give this guy a wire, and I'm going to find a spot for him. So I did just 3, but you could do 5, you could do clusters, whatever. It might take you a little bit longer to do this than it's taking me. I'm just doing kind of a short version just to stop the video if you need to, just so we can get through the video and I can show you. So that's my 3 kind of pine cones. I was actually probably going to hold it like this so that magnolia is on the bottom. And this piece needs to tuck in a little bit more. So you might have to do a little kind of, a little kind of rearranging. Oh, and I just lost a piece of the pine. So I'll put that back in. So, you're going to have that. So you're going to have to just kind of, as things start to fall, you're going to have to just go in the back and take a little bit more wire to it and make sure you wire it onto the form. So that's going to happen. Just because of the nature of how we're doing these and they're freehand. It's going to happen. So let me just wire this other piece on, and then we will go on to our next thing. Okay, so there we go. So I got that. I think it looks kind of nice. I like it. All right, so for my wreath, I am going to put on some decorations next. So, some people like to do more natural decorations. I always like to at least do something, at least a Christmas ball or 2. These are kind of neutral. These are like little white plastic Christmas balls. I usually try to use the plastic ones just because they're not breakable. But if you have special ones that you put on every year, you have a theme you have every year, this would be the time you can associate that theme into this wreath. So I'm going to take my Christmas balls. These are the little ones. I think these are probably the size of a little smaller than a golf ball. These little guys, and I am going to the same thing like I did with the pine cones. I'm going to put the wire on these. So same thing. I'm going to put it on the end. I'm going to twist. So I have a wire. And I am going to probably do like maybe 5 of these. So I do these pretty fast, but you might take you a little longer to get these wired. Done a lot of these over the years. Okay, so now we have our Christmas balls. I was going to put one right in the middle here, just to kind of cover that stem of the magnolia. So you're just going to poke the wire in, and then you're going to turn it in the back to secure it. Okay, so maybe I'll put one kind of right here. It's kind of hard to see this doing it opposite here, but hopefully it'll look symmetrical. And feel free to kind of take that wire and, feed it through if you feel like there's something else that needs to secure. Kind of feed it through to secure something else as well. So that's the next one. And then let's see. I was going to do maybe another one right here. So I said 5, but I might only do, we'll see. I might only do 3 on this one. And make sure those wires are, you're attaching them on the other side. Okay. So I have like 3 symmetrical ones on there now. I might do one more next to the pine cone here. And whatever you feel like, whatever you feel like doing, whatever looks right, I might only keep it as 3. So I just have 3 little white ones on there. Almost look like little snowballs. So I only did 3, but you can do more than that if you like. I'm also going to need to find a room for a bow. So I have this blue and gold bow I'm going to put on this one. And your kit might have had different colors. I know a lot of people like the red and gold, really traditional. I kind of liked this. I liked this blue bow. I think it was, kind of goes a little icy, kind of a snow kind of looking. So you can decide where you want your bow. Whether you want it on the bottom, it's kind of a good place for it. Whether you want it towards the top, wherever you want. Same thing with the bow. The bow is probably pre-made, but you can make a bow if you don't have a pre-made one. I made these already. Also the wire, just like we had the wire for the Christmas balls. I think I'm going to put my bow on the side here. Again, push it through and kind of tie it to the back. Give it a little, so I just kind of put it on like that. However you want it. And that could be the bottom. I kind of made it the bottom, so I have like, you know, the magnolia on one side and the bow on the other side, but you could do anything you want. I also had, for a little jazz, these little ornaments. So these are like, I guess they're reindeer. So I might also put a little reindeer on mine too. So let's see. So again, you can use the wire. Might want to take any of the little, you know, strings or whatever that are on your ornaments. You probably don't need those. So I'm just going to take the wire and I'm just going to kind of wire my little reindeer on as well. So I'll find a spot for him. I think he's going to go on the top. And your kit, I didn't really put, I put the Christmas balls in the kit. I didn't put any like, you know, bigger or special ornaments or themed ornaments, figuring that people are going to, you know, put what they like. You know, everybody kind of has a theme every year. You know, some people I know pick a theme every year. So maybe you're doing a theme this year. Maybe you have an ornament that will go with the theme. So I put the reindeer on. So there's my reindeer. So that is my wreath. So you can go back through your wreath and kind of look at it a little bit, see if there's anything you'd like to maybe trim a little bit. Like I see this, my sides here, got maybe one or two pieces that just kind of need a little trim just to make it a little more symmetrical. And you're welcome to also, if you feel like it's not as full as you like, you can also take some of your pieces and kind of also put them in as an afterthought on the outsides to kind of give it a little bit more fullness. I'm not going to do that with this one, but you can. And then the last but not least, some people have wreath holders, you know, that are on your door. You can also make a wreath holder if you like, just by using the wire. So you can also just like take one or two pieces of wire. Usually I have some floral tape for this, but we won't need to use the floral tape today. And you can kind of just, you know, put the wire together, maybe even take one or two pieces, take another piece and wrap it around like so. And you can also make your little hook that way. So your hook will go underneath like that. So that's my wreath project for today. Thank you for joining me, everybody. My Facebook page is MariGold Horticultural Therapy. You can check me out there. And thank you and happy holidays. Take care.